Governor. My name is Sarah. I'm from Windsor Heights, Iowa. My husband and I moved here 6 years ago when he took a job at Drake. I'm a Lutheran minister who works for a nonprofit. I'm 40 years old, and 2 years ago I paid off my student loan debt.
Wow.
We are still paying off my husband's student loan debt. I always worked, ever since I was 16 years old, I've worked at least 20 to 30 hours a week, always while I was in school. I always paid on my loans throughout the years of my education, and it took me that long to pay them off. That is a huge obstacle for anyone wanting an education. That is a huge burden for anyone who's gotten an education and then has to pay back all that debt. And that is huge profits for banks off people who can barely afford it. And I'd like to know what your plan is for helping those who have student loan debt to address it and to make it possible for other students in our country to get an education without taking on crippling student loan debt.
Right. So did you go to graduate school? Is that where most of the debt came from?
Yeah, seminary and graduate school and undergrad. So.
Yeah, that's most of the undergraduate, you end up with a pretty limited amount of debt if you're someone who's willing to work hard. And
Let me check you on that one. So in 1976, you could work a summer job and pay for a year of college tuition. Now it will take you 2,229 hours working a minimum wage job to pay for a year of college. That's working 43 hours a week, every week for an entire year. That is not possible for anyone. And so the value of minimum wage, the cost of a college education, it's just not possible to make it happen and work through school, even for an undergraduate.
But don't you get some basic scholarships?
Oh yeah, I had great scholarship support, but still with my undergraduate, with my seminary, with my graduate school, it was working to pay for living expenses, and then having a lot of student debt, even though I had support from other places.
You know, my executive assistant for 7 years when I was governor was a woman named Molly. And she fell in love with this musician and had a child when she was 19, and for school, right? And so she got an undergraduate degree. She got a master's in photojournalism is what she had. But she ended up with $68,000 in debt. And she had studied something that obviously wasn't going to possibly pay off that debt. So that doesn't answer your question. I think the banks, I don't see any reason why the government shouldn't take over those loans. The reason those interest rates are so high is that most students wouldn't qualify for a loan for years, and then well-intentioned legislators said, well, we're going to make it so that the banks don't have to worry about getting paid back. So if you were to declare personal bankruptcy, your student loans don't go away, right? It's the only place in life where that debt will follow you, for the rest of your life. And that's a harsh reality. Almost everything else in life, if you risk something and something goes wrong, you're not punished, economically for the rest of your life, except for the student debt. The plan we've worked on is again, it's $1.5 trillion right now. $1.4 trillion is the total student debt out there. And every time, it's interesting, when you talk about having the government take it away, people that didn't go to college go nuts. In other words, why we didn't even get any skills training. Why is it so unfair that these folks are going to get $40,000 as a gift, or $50,000 or $60,000 as a gift? And, we weren't allowed to go to a college or university, and weren't allowed to do that. I think the only real solution that will actually be functional would be to find ways to have students work it off. And I think working in a church, teaching school, firefighters, things like that, there are all kinds of public service jobs that you could set up a system whereby, and they tried to do this, it didn't work very well, but that
almost nobody has qualified for
I understand that. I understand. Well, that's because we had Trump come in. But there's got to be a different. There's got to be some approach like that. There's a reason why they did it that way, because otherwise you're going to create a civil war of people saying one group of people get this huge amount of public money, and these other people that don't even have the college degrees get nothing.
And on the other end, if we were able to raise the minimum wage, then people might actually have a shot at paying for school as they work their way through.
I am an entrepreneur who believes in getting that minimum wage right up to $15. I mean, obviously, I think in rural areas you have to go more slowly, because I think there is differences in how economies work in rural areas compared to urban areas. But yeah, the minimum wage is a good start, but it really still won't solve your problem. I mean, it'll solve a part of it. Part of it is, I mean, I think it's a legitimate question to look at how come colleges have why has the cost of a college education gone up through the roof, right? Housing and education seem to go right, like nothing stops them at all.
And I can speak to the other end of that. My husband is a college professor, and those wages have stayed flat since the 1970s, so it's not going to him. Or maybe we'd be able to pay off those student loans.